So, good evening and welcome to the 39th St Ives Interprint competition. So normally at this time we'd be exhibiting 240 prints in the St Ives Street Church and welcome you all to see our exhibition and listen to the judging in the evening. But this year, for the first time, we've adapted our competition due to the epidemic to be a digital online competition with 20 clubs, each entering 6 images. And we've received some excellent entries again this year, and I wish you all good luck. And may the best club win. This year, we're very pleased to welcome our judge, Bob Webzell, ARPS EFIAP. Bob started his professional career in nursing and healthcare before becoming a teacher of healthcare management, working in Kent, West Africa and West London University. Bob uses his photographic skills for charitable purposes these days and helps to fund the building and development of secondary schools in Africa. So without further ado, I'm going to hand you over now to Bob and to Alice Kendrick, who's our competition secretary, who's running Interprint for her 3rd year. So over to Alice.
Thanks very much, Steve. I'm delighted that we've got a full set of images this evening. It was an interesting experience trying to convert this competition to a digital format, but I think it's worked quite well so far, so hopefully everything will go smoothly. I do want to apologise in advance if I pronounce anything incorrectly. I am doing my best, but please bear with me. I don't think there's anything left for me to say except thanks very much, Bob, for joining us, and I look forward to hearing your comments. Over to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Steve. Thank you very much indeed, Alice. And it's a pleasure. Thank you for inviting me. 120 images, so thank you very much for this unique opportunity of making 119 new enemies all on the same day. Your clubs have selected your image to represent them, so all of these images are winners. I'm convinced all of them have scored 20 out of 20 in club competition. They've been checked to be technically correct. There's nothing significantly wrong with any of these images. But now they find themselves in a different class. They find themselves against other winners. And so now we can look beyond the basics and look for things like originality, creativity, artistry, impact, emotional content maybe. And I must apologise, like Alice, in advance that if I sound critical when I try to justify why one image has scored 5 or 6 marks more than another, it's not personal. I'm trying to justify what I'm doing. I'll state what I like about an image, but what I think could possibly be better about it. For indeed, I would suggest that is how we learn in photography. You've chosen me because I have quite an extensive credentials in international exhibiting and in judging. But I am a human being. I am highly fallible. And if you don't agree with my marking, then I can guarantee to you that you are right and I am wrong. And under normal circumstances, I would invite you to take your revenge on me by going outside and letting my tyres down. But these are far from normal circumstances, as we all know, and my car is 150 miles away near my home and my club in Brighton. I'm very sorry I won't be there at the exhibition. I'm very sorry, the virtual exhibition. I'm sorry I won't be meeting you in person. I would have really liked to. Let's commence with the judging, please. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Bob. Our first image is Forever Daffodils.
A very slight shuffle on my desk, forgive me. Right, we have Forever Daffodils, number 1. An interesting image, quite heavy vignetting around the sides. The daffodils will forever be preserved in your photograph. Quite a graphic background behind it. Sometimes the background almost is as strong as the daffodils themselves. Well composed, you've got everything into the picture. There's one or two bluish highlights at the top that I might have quietened. Let's start off, please, with a 17.
That's by David Ashfield. Golden Beauty.
Yes, nearly had a hiccup here because we've got two golden beauties. I do a lot of horse photography. I've got a horse of my own. I've been doing quite a lot of horse and owner photography, and I personally find I get best results when the young lady's hair is the same colour as the horse. But that's a matter of choice. One might question whether a blonde model would have been better or different from this model. It's a beautifully taken picture. There's little to complain about with regard to image quality. You've got the horse's attention in the face. You haven't really got the horse's attention in the ears, and the ears forward always look a little bit more dramatic. Lovely Palomino, 18 points, please.
That's by Dave Balcom. Itsukushima Shrine, Miyama.
This is a small image and it's a very bright image. I'm assuming it's Japan. I'm assuming there's a beautiful mountainscape beyond, but it's hard to see. I can't understand quite why the image is so bright. PDIs do brighten, but was it snow? It's not too obvious to me. Maybe the brightness is meant to be suggesting glory, holiness, I'm not sure. It's a pleasant enough image. I do wonder about its brightness, and I'm going to go 15 on this one, please.
That's by Gillian Chappell. Vanishing Point.
I do find the position where the photographer has stood is obviously highly critical in apparently getting these two buildings to meet at the top. It might be City of London, I don't know, it could be anywhere in the world. It's interesting how the sky varies between those different triangles. How you've got wind-blown cloud in pale blue sky one side, almost like Oxford, Cambridge, isn't it? And dark blue elsewhere, but there is just a smudge of blown cloud passing through into the other diamond. And it's interesting, you've got all that wind up there and the trees down below are still. But it's a beautifully seen picture. I'm sure if I knew where it was, I'd go and take it as well. Vanishing Point, 19, please.
That's by John Sandel. Damselflies Mating.
This is a classic image of a classic behavior. The male, I believe, the blue at the top, the female below. Hard to fault technically. I wonder a little bit about where the edges of the image are and whether the landscape image was the best for this particular behavior, whether square, whether a portrait shape. But that could be my only criticism on this one. It's technically right. 19, please.
That's by Claire Price. B, approaching bluebells.
The bee is in very, very sharp focus. And maybe the pollen on the bee makes it even more sharply focused. The bluebells are much softer, and yes, the bee is approaching the bluebells. I'm not for a moment suggesting that the bee was put into the picture. That is not true. But it does have a slightly standout effect that just destroys it a little bit for me, but very clever to capture a bee in flight. Bee approaching bluebells, 16, please.
That's by Kevin Pigney. Zoned out.
Great use of sort of the colours of black and green in this, and there's some very neon greens around. And everything's very well chosen in the picture. The eyes, of course, are a key part of it. If you look very, very closely, the eyes are actually made of wallpaper and they're not his real eyes. But it's a cleverly done picture, and I'm giving this one 17, please.
That's by Dan Beecroft. Courting great crested grebes.
Gotcha. A pair of great crested grebes in a beam of light. Some rather darker corners on the image. They're in natural history photography, and there's a lot of natural history in this competition, and wildlife. Yes, we look for just sort of, we're looking for bird on stick or something like that, but if we can get behavior as well. And these grebes who are courting are passing pondweed to each other, saying, look, I'm a great guy, I can supply your nest with materials or whatever. And that's sort of what's going on in this picture. It is showing behavior as well. 18, please, on this image.
That's by Neil Moulton. High over bar.
Not only is there a lot of good wildlife, but there's a lot of good sporting action in this competition, and some very creative and some good travel work. So I've tended, in judging in advance, to sort of try to look at sport against sport, etc. This beautiful sort of Olympic style, maybe taken at the 2016 Olympics in Britain, I don't know, of a United States athlete, gymnast, working on the bars, leaping across it, up against a matte black background, so you just get the bar and the athlete. Nice to see, competent, technically correct. It's not my favourite, so it's going to be an 18, please.
That's by Andy Gutteridge. BLM March.
I'm sorry, I'm not hesitating. My images are not changing as quickly as maybe yours are. Here we are, thank you. Black lives matter, they very certainly do, as all lives matter. And you've got fabulous detail into the people in this picture. But maybe it's ironic that I should be saying this, and I'm not trying to be racist, but one thing I don't see in this picture is black. Maybe you've used shadows and highlights, maybe a bit of HDR, but I think you've sort of, by getting the detail, you've flattened some of that beautiful blacks and whites of a normal image. So it's lacking a bit in the contrast for me. Compositionally, it works well. I like the banner. I like the girl with the megaphone. That's all very nice. Shadows and highlights is a valuable tool, but I have an opinion that it can be overdone a tiny bit. 17 here, please.
That's by Tony Cole. Anna.
And when Anna gets on the screen, you'll see a different colour of black. I apologise, I'm not seeing the image that you are all seeing. Anna, to me, looks like a Greek woman, maybe in front of an elderly house. And whether it's her house or not, I'm not sure. I do know she seems comfortable being photographed. I wonder a little bit about the origins of the light in that picture, the lights on her hand, the lights on her face, and lights on part of the house beyond. Maybe if with the door of the house open, maybe if you had the opportunity to manage the light, whether a bit of light inside of the house would have enhanced the picture a fraction more. But Anna gets 18, and sorry, I'm still not even seeing Anna on screen.
That's by Di Jackson.
Thank you.
Faded Glory.
Faded Glory is an image, again, I'm not seeing it, but it's an image of 5 tulips against a pale pinkish background. Photographed in landscape format, and I appreciate the beauty of the fading daffodils. A former Brighton Camera Club member got their fellowship from 20 pictures of one fading bunch of daffodils. But I wonder about the composition, the width of the composition. There it is, thank you. And I wonder if the 5 are all necessary. It doesn't work quite so well for me. 15, please.
That's by Penny Reeves. Peacock in Flight.
There he is, thank you. Johnny Peacock, I believe I'm right in saying. This is possibly the Paralympics from 2016. Great effort, great energy, great focus on him. If I wanted to be critical, I'd say that it looks like a COVID picture because he's socially distancing and there's absolutely no sign, particularly in your image, of competitors or even spectators or starters. So I just miss that a little bit, but Johnny Peacock, 19, please. Love the title.
That's by Peter Milsom. Blue Tits Looking for Water.
The image when it arrives is of 2 blue tits on a tap in a wooden post that I think I might have seen in another image somewhere before, which gives me a degree of suspicion. One hanging upside down under the tap, hoping it would drip, not unless you stuck a peanut up there. One in flight above, or one perched above. I'm trying to remember the image because I'm not seeing it. I like it. I hope it was absolutely genuine, but with natural history photography these days, there are a variety of setups available. But it is of the quality that this one receives 20, please.
That's by Claire Norman. Very well done, Claire.
Mm-hmm.
Thoughtful.
Thoughtful shows a gentleman's face with a heavy beard and pulled back hair. And by using a monochrome, possibly a selenium or a sepia toning, you've given a little bit of age and character further to the picture. I like it, the brightness of his face and the darkness of the background. 18, please, on Thoughtful.
That's by Roger Bradshaw. Wasp spider with common data.
This is a beautifully focused picture, lovely detail, especially on the wasp spider. Sorry for the common data. But because you've included the wings of the data in the picture, I find the composition just a little bit off balance, sort of over towards the right as you look. I haven't manipulated your picture. I haven't done anything with any of your pictures, but I think I quite like it if it's sort of rotated 90 degrees anti-clockwise, such that the wing goes downwards instead of across the screen. That's just a suggestion. 17, please.
That's by David Schenk. High tide at Thornham.
Yeah, I struggle with your title a little bit. If this is high tide, I wouldn't like to see low tide. It seems to be a lot of exposed mud flats, or maybe by, you know, there's a lot of water pictures coming up and lots of people are using sort of 3 and 4 second exposures on water. So water's turning into mill ponds. I'm not getting the impression that I've seen water in the foreground. The water's far away in the background. And it's a fairly simple picture of a hut, a boat that will never float again. And I'll give this one 16, please.
That's by Andrew Colgan. Hide and Eat.
Hide and Eat is sort of a travel picture of a series of about a dozen robes, blankets maybe hanging on 2 lines, and a little boy poking his head through it, stuffing some sort of fruit into his mouth. And whilst he's a cute lad and it's a curious picture, or he is curious of you, the photographer, is what I should say. I find the fact that the fruit is right in front of his mouth does distract a little bit from his personality, etc. I'm going to give this one 15, please.
That's by Gary Chester. Ethereal Dancing.
I'm a bit of a sucker for cornflower blue anyway, and this is beautiful. I don't know how you've done it, whether it was sort of 5 seconds of dance with final shutter flash just to get the figure critical in the middle, I don't know. Whether it's a composite of 3 or 4 photographs, I don't know. I do like it, and this is going to be a 20, please.
That's by Kathy Holgate. Well done, Kathy.
Yes, indeed.
Crested Tit.
The Crested Tit is a Scottish bird normally, and you photographed it in, I think, a snowy scene in bright light. Yeah, a bit of snow on the deadwood perch there. And it's a lovely bird on a perch. The background is complementary. If I've got a niggle, I find the bird a little bit sort of cardboard cutout, and that, sorry if that sounds rude. Maybe I'm getting the impression maybe you used a degree of flash in this picture. Certainly got a highlight in the eye. For me, it's just a little bit sharp and sort of bright at the front and dark at the back. And I wonder if tonally it could be varied a little bit to make it feel a tiny bit more natural. That being said, 19, lovely bird.
That's by Peter Gray. Misty Morning.
Misty Morning shows sort of a wildflower meadow with some bright reds at the base of the picture, and then greens and varied plants passing towards misty trees at the back. It's a good study of wildflower meadows, and I like the recession created by the mist. But over and above that, it's not sort of, it hasn't got the oomph, it hasn't got maybe the creativity of some of the other images, in my humble opinion. Sorry if you don't agree with me. I'm going to go 15 on this one, please.
That's by Susan Reed. Bright Eyes.
Bright Eyes is an image of what I believe might be an olive baboon infant clinging to its mum's back, probably mum. It is bright eyes. The bright eyes are stuck slightly up there in the top corner of the picture. The rear hand is in focus, the front hand is a bit out of focus, trying to get that all in. Again, a tiny bit like the wasp spider earlier, I find the composition a little bit off balanced with regard to the shape of the picture. Bright Eyes is going to get 16, please.
That's by Jean de Rook. Neowise.
A very competent astrological picture, I think that's the right term, of a rare sighting of a comet. And you have selected a very good viewpoint with a monument of some description in the foreground, whether you're in a churchyard, whether you're close to it or whether you're 100 yards away, I'm not sure. You've certainly got the monument and the night sky and the comet all in equal focus. Maybe it's a composite of two pictures, both taken there. You've hidden the what's the right word? The light pollution well behind the base of the monument. I just look at that star nearly on the top of the cross and wonder whether you could have got that on top of your cross too. But very, very competent night sky photography of a rare finding. 18, please.
That's by Ken Barley. Inle Lake Fisherman.
Yeah, this image, when I get to see it, is a square image taken almost by a fish caught in a net, looking up at this Far Eastern fisherman. And compositionally, I find this a very strong image. You're looking through those two circles, the competence of how he's balancing and manipulating things with his left foot is quite remarkable. But your viewpoint, looking at him, looking at the sunset, looking at the boat, I find very strong indeed. And I'm going to go 20 on this one, please.
That's by Paul Turner. Congratulations, Paul.
Well done.
Managerial Emotion.
Yeah, I don't recognise the gentleman. I know some football managers, but not particularly this one. But certainly the emotions in the title and the emotions in the image. You've got him sharp. It's classic to have a football manager who turns up in his suit and then it rains or snows or whatever. And you've got that sort of slightly haunting background that might be a great stadium full of spectators. And I think the monochrome works well. 19, please.
That's by Ray Lawrence. Pirouette.
Yeah, I'm a tiny bit confused by your title. You get this lovely sort of dandelion seed floating in gorgeous coloured water with a lovely meniscus down there. And we can see why there's a deep meniscus, because up on the top of the thing it looks like some halcyon days ring box or something has landed on top of the dandelion seed. And I wonder if I prefer it without the box up there. I don't know. When you look closely at the box, especially with the navy blue, you start to see tiny imperfections in this slightly contrived picture. It has beauty, but for me, I think I might have preferred it with the without that. I'm going to go 16 on Pirouette, please.
That's by Ryan Bailey. Bringing Home the Seaweed.
Bringing Home the Seaweed is a monochrome picture, which I can't yet see, of sort of a Far Eastern looking, I'm guessing, some lovely bamboo poles in water, and it's the poles that make the picture. You tell me it's Bringing Home the Seaweed, and I'm grateful for your title, because the boat is sort of so overloaded, it was hard for me to sort of see what was actually going on. And that might be my one complaint about it. I give this one 16, please.
That's by Phil Lum. Old Lady in China.
Old Lady in China is another monochrome image, which sadly I can't see, of a Chinese lady in a doorway, or with Chinese writing behind her. It's competent portrait photography, hard to fault in terms of travel, but I don't know, maybe just needs a tiny bit more spark to stimulate me. I'm going to go 17 on that one, please.
That's by David Hodgson. Grey heron in the mist eating fish.
The grey heron picture, taken almost at water level, is a lovely image. Grey herons I've seen in Australia and Africa. It might be a lake in Cambridge for all I know. I like the bird. I like the light on the bird. I think the shape of the picture is justified by those two water lily leaves coming up further across. I wished I'd taken it, and this is a 20.
That's by Colin Bradshaw. Golden knapweed fly, Chyterelia jassii.
Oh, I'm glad you had to say that. I'm not sure if this yellow plant that the fly is on is golden knapweed, but it's a golden knapweed fly, and it's beautifully photographed. It's sort of a yellow and green fly in a yellow and green picture. And whilst a picture of a fly isn't everybody's cup of tea, technically it's near perfect. I'm going to go 19 on that one, please.
That's by Alice Kendrick.
Mm.
Brown hair grooming.
Another sort of ground level picture of a brown hair, and that low angle helps to make wildlife photography. Somehow when you get down low and look up at you, you exalt the subject matter, and sadly, because most of us are sort of 5 foot, 6 foot tall, we tend to stand up and look down on, and that doesn't flatter in photography. If I've got a problem with the brown hair grooming, the face is nicely exposed, but the rest of the picture, as I remember it, because I can't see it, is a little bit bright, and I wonder if tonally that could be turned down. Thank you, I've caught up. 18, please.
That's by Caroline Tillett. Tree in the lake.
Thank you. A lovely landscape picture of a moody, sort of Lakeland type environment. It might be Scotland, I don't know. You know, that's a photographer's tree, isn't it? A single tree anywhere. The overall colour of the picture is a little bit drab. And I wonder if it might almost become a monochrome image. But a well-chosen landscape picture, nice mist, etc. 18, please.
That's by Derek Smith. Deep in thought.
A picture of an Indian style lady. Sorry, forgive me, I'm just flitting around the world, guessing where you are. I like the skin textures, the detail. I'm happy with the composition. She's sort of looking out beyond you. A valuable travel type picture. 17, please.
That's by Clive Thomas. Mother love.
Mother Love shows a heavily vignetted picture of a female tiger, one must assume, with 2 cubs, and certainly she does seem to be cuddling them, and certainly they do seem to be an enormous handful. You've put the love into your title to sort of generate emotion. Certainly you can get that maybe from the cubs down below. I think I'd have preferred it if her eyes were open. Then she'd be looking adoringly at them. Now she looks a bit like she's fast asleep and wishes these little blighters would quieten down too. 17, please.
That's by Claire Norman. Supplication.
A lot of work's gone into an image like this, and it has a sort of a slightly Rembrandt type feel to me. These 2 models, supplication, I had to look up, mean something like sort of begging forgiveness or whatever. A well composed picture, lovely balance of colour. Do I like it? Would I hang it on my wall? I don't enjoy it that much, but this is taste in photography. 18, please. It's technically very good. Thank you.
That's by Hugh Spence. Red arrows.
Yes, a classic picture. In the south of England, we do see quite a number of red arrows pictures. And here, inevitably, you've got the 7 men all behaving correctly and one who's got lost. No, I know that's not what happens. And it's competent enough, it's pleasing. Maybe I'd like to have seen the top of that arc in the picture. Whenever I get a print like this, I tend to pick it off the easel and turn it round and see if I can make it look more fun somewhere else. And again, I quite like this one with turn round 90 degrees anti-clockwise with the nearest plane coming out the ground. Living near Shoreham Airport, I won't turn it clockwise because that will be a bit sad locally. 18 for the red arrows.
That's by Christine Hart. Times Square.
Times Square, New York. When it reaches Brighton, there it is, it's got there. Shows a fabulous, I think it's New York anyway. This might be the Times Square in London. I don't know. Frozen 2's on anyway. Lovely electronic background with all the different lights and the moving crowds, etc. There's two figures in the foreground. I can't quite work out. They're not quite part of the rest of the picture. And I wonder if we're in some sort of glass cage and it's a viewing platform, or you can sort of pose there to get your picture taken with this in the background. But I enjoy it. I like the complexity of it, the vibrance of it. One can really feel there, but 18, please.
That's by Andrew Colgan. Ghost Ship.
Ghost Ship shows, as you can see, a damaged boat, probably, on a beach in misty weather. So the ghost is sort of, the ship is visible and the rest of the environment is not. It's pleasing. I like pictures generally with smoke or mist or fog in them, and that's working well. A simple colour palette. 18 for Ghost Ship, please.
That's by Joe Glenister. Love in a Mist.
Yes, not being much of a botanist, I wondered if you put the right picture in when I saw your title, but I do enjoy this sort of tabletop setup. Slight vignetting, the three blossoms, the two jugs. I wonder if your love concept, whether they're meant to be male and female, but forgive me for making that suggestion. I think it's technically very strong. 19, please.
That's by Nicola Scott.
Nicola Scott.
3 over.
Three over when it reaches is what I believe is a horse jumping picture, taken at a sort of cross-country event. The lead horse has got number 20 on it, so there must be a lot more competitors to come over. You've shot towards the sun, there it is. And because of it, maybe when the picture first came into your camera, it was a bit silhouette-y, very nice separation between the three horses. Again, I wonder a little bit if highlights and shadows have been used to grab back a bit of detail, because there are one or two little snicks of light underneath two of the three horses that just appear not toned in the same way as the rest. 17 for 3 over.
That's by Peter Lawrence. Morning Haze.
I'm not a lover of lightness, and I'm not a lover of great colour. I do a lecture called 50 Shades of Black, but that's another story. But I do feel sort of seduced by the colour and the gentleness of this image. lovely beach scene, beautiful sands, certainly not Brighton, and the four figures, the two dogs, the two people, one of them in red, works well for me. 19, please.
That's by David Ashfield. Arctic Terns.
The picture when it arrives is of 100 or more Arctic terns all taking off in panic together, and because of your slow shutter speed you've got the movement within these birds. They're a rare bird. I've never seen one in UK. You found 100 or more. We see some red trailing legs. Sadly we can't see the red beaks. I believe you in your definition. It's sort of natural history photography with a difference. That quirkiness, 20 out of 20, please.
That's by Malcolm Wood. Very well done, Malcolm. Ballet Dancer.
Ballet Dancer is a largely monochrome image taken close up of the feet of a ballet dancer in movement, and you've captured that movement and you've made creativity into the picture. I do wonder, there's a few little sort of traces of colour coming in at the top, and I wonder whether that was intentional or not, but I do like this sort of foot level picture, and I give this one 19, please.
That's by Shirley Hollis. Chen Ji.
Yeah, I think she's wearing a badge. I can't see her, but she's with Chinese Super League or something like that, and it's obviously a very competent sort of publishable picture of a table tennis player in action. There she is. And maybe it's appropriate that she's got that the Chinese are going to Mars, that the ball looks a bit like Mars up there to me anyway. Am I being critical? Is table tennis such an exciting picture to take sport pictures of? As some other sports, I'm not sure. It's competent enough. Her concentration is beautiful. 16, please.
That's by Phil Janes. Great Crested Grebe with Tench. The
picture is fairly sea level, water level of a fish, a great crested grebe having caught a fish. The light wasn't fabulous for you, as I remember the picture. The fish is backside on, but we can't, you can't tell the grebe to turn it round for you. There she is. It's competent, it's pleasing. 17, please. That's by Colin Birch. Two Shadows. Yeah, strange title maybe, of sort of an architectural picture of a building. Difficult to work out what the building's about. It almost looks like a hospital in some ways. And then you've called it Two Shadows because there's two people walking down there, and they just add a little bit to the picture. I wonder, seeing its two shadows, whether if you could have taken one 2 seconds earlier with just the shadows and not the people in the picture, whether it might have been even stronger still. 17, please. That's by Sharon Powell. Lion Selecting Prey. I wish I was there with you. A lovely safari type picture of a herd of buffaloes being spooked by a pride of lions. It's not just this one. I love the buffalo, the nearly flying buffalo over towards the left. That's very nice. The animals will sort of select themselves as the prey because he's looking backwards and he's looking for the weak ones at the back, or the youngsters who can't run so fast. These are far too big for him. maybe the dust being kicked up is disturbing the focus just a tiny bit in the picture, which weakens it a tiny bit for me. 17.
That's by Reginald Worsfold. Empidid, Clinocerus stagnalis.
Yeah, well done, Alice. Now, I'm probably doing you an injustice here. This is, I believe, quite a rare fly, and you have photographed a very beautiful, perfect specimen of this sort of dagger fly, I think it is. But against that grey background and with the shutter speed you've used, it feels frozen in space. And whilst I hope very much it's real live and caught in flight, it could nearly be a post-mortem specimen on a slab. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's beautifully photographed. It's a wonderful image of a rare beast. 19, please.
That's by Stuart Ball. Gymnast focused on beam.
Yeah, we have yet another gymnast floating above a different sort of beam here. And I do find this one very dramatic. I almost fear that she's going to drop down and hit her head on that beam, but I know that doesn't happen. I like this a lot. You're again obviously at an Olympic type international event of some description. Very happy to give this one 20.
That's by Andy Gutteridge. Very well done, Andy.
Mm-hmm.
Shoes in the wrong place.
The picture shows a child maybe in India or somewhere like that. And yes, her t-shirt shows 3 shoes. And yeah, they should be on her feet and they're not, they're on her t-shirt. And she can't afford shoes. So it's a sort of a travel and a storytelling picture in that way. Apart from maybe the dirt on the floor, we're not told a lot about the environment. She does match in nicely to that sort of brickwork she's leaning against, but I know it's not Trafalgar Square, but it nearly could be, and I'd just like to see a bit more of the context in the picture. 15, please.
That's by Kim Human. Flagstad.
Yeah, I had to look it up too. I believe Flagstad is in Norway. And when I get to see the picture, you get a lot of icy water in the foreground, thank you very much, and some beautiful mountains disappearing into the mist behind. This to me is a reminder that the St Ives Interprint should be a print competition, and this for me is the sort of picture it really ought to have been a print, and ought maybe to be printed a little bit darker and stronger and bolder. But a lovely environment. Wish I was there with you, although it's been so cold recently. Maybe I feel we have been there. 19, please.
That's by Liz Akers. Red Cherry.
An interesting still life. I'm sorry about your cutlery set, that's a bit of a shame. And well shown on a white table, a white surface, with a beautiful red cherry in that we'd all like to pick up and eat. Maybe it's not optical illusion, but your spoon almost seems to be floating off of the surface. Maybe there's a glass there that's just sort of giving that. So it's very competent still life photography up against tough opposition. 17, please.
That's by Andy Dern. Angry Goose.
Angry Goose shows two, I think, grey lag geese chasing each other, one chasing another one out of a splashing water. You've certainly captured the action in this sort of park pond type environment. It's good. The spray, a bit like the lion in the chasing the buffalo, the spray does disturb the sort of focus of the picture a little bit, but it's well caught. Action 16, please.
That's by Christine Holt. First corner.
I can't see it, but first corner shows 3 dirt track motorcyclists, and I'm glad you took them at the first corner, because they'd be utterly filthy by the time they came round for the next dozen or so laps that they do. There's some very bright neon colours on these three, and it's almost it's almost as though you've used flash and has highlighted those neons even more so. But I don't think the motorcyclists would welcome you flashing when they're trying to jockey for position on the first corner. 17, please.
That's by Colin Brister. Lunchtime.
I like your picture more than I like your title. I believe in the background there is sort of a yellow sunflower seed head with a very blue bottle fly and another tiny little fly further over. And I'm wondering if the lunchtime meant that it was sipping nectar or whether the little fly was going to be lunch. I'm not sure. It's competent insect photography. 18, please.
That's by David Scott. Red squirrel feeding in the heather.
A very pleasing picture, probably in wild Scotland. It might have been baited in onto that log, I don't know, but the heather around gives a very nice atmosphere, a nicely structured picture. 19, please.
That's by Cheryl Wilkes.
Right.
Geometric spiral.
Yeah, somebody has found a interesting ceiling looking upwards, but the geometric spiral is suggested by that panel in the center, and my suggestion might be that you've taken the central panel out and moved the picture around like sort of the hours on a clock to create the geometric spiral that you're talking about. So it becomes a sort of a made picture as opposed to a taken picture. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Has it worked? Maybe not too well for me. 16, please.
That's by Andrew Fox. Clerical catch-up.
This is a monochrome picture, I recall, of a very nice looking gentleman towards the left, and I think he's the main part of the picture. Behind the bottle of water, talking to another cleric. I'm a bit sad about the African looking man with the horns behind him, and I wonder whether you could have moved him slightly. My apologies to Africans. I like the picture. Certainly there's an intimacy and there's a friendship within it, but to me the beauty is towards the left of the image and less so towards the right. 17, please.
That's by Ben Pete. Glamorous widow.
A studio type image of a model, I'm assuming, with a hat on and a veil, I seem to remember, with just one small spotlight on her face, illuminating part of the face. Widow, does that come from the hat and the garb? I'm not sure. Understanding your titles, what you say and what I understand are inevitably slightly different. But I think it's very competent. Studio Model Photography 19, please.
That's by Chris Thurston. Golden Beauty.
Yes, this is number 60 on our list, and it's the second Golden Beauty. And I wonder if some of you have been watching too much Goldfinger and James Bond, painting people gold. An awful lot of work and a lot of sort of expenditure, I'm sure, has gone into this image. I wonder a little bit about where you stopped the gold and maybe why you didn't colour the face as well, although her makeup is strong. Do I like it? I find it slightly, little bit disturbing. I'm going to go 17 on this one, please.
That's by Graham Clegg. That's the last image in our first half, so we'll have a short break to have a cup of tea or coffee, and we'll be back with you shortly. So we'll get started with our second half now, but before we do, I've got a quick update on where we are with the scores so far. So in the lead at the moment, we have Pico and Stevenage, both on 58 points. Following behind, we have Hertford, Chelmsford and Wayland, all clamouring for second place. So it's very, very tight up at the top there. And so far, a good competition. We'll carry on with our next image now, which is Steampunk Portrait.
Thank you, Alice. This image is of a lovely character. I don't know what turns a human being into a character, but this guy's got it. Well dressed for a steam fair, maybe. Nice attention to the camera. I can tell you've darkened the background down because you've missed a bit around the back of his head there where that peacock feather is, but a nice portrait anyway. 17, please.
That's by Andy Beatson. Sea Defences, Cart Gap.
Yeah, I'm sort of not used to seeing sea defences that are still intact and working. On the south coast, they're all sort of decayed and broken and much more photogenic. Again, we've got, you know, here's one more of the very slow water 3-second exposure type images that sort of mill ponds the sea. And that's been a bit of a theme through this. A nice sort of morning, evening type image, but 16, please.
That's by Maurice Young. Past and Imperfect.
Thank you, these are moving better. 3 leaves of a lily type plant in states of decay. I enjoy the sort of the yellowish aspects of it. The more darker bits I find a little bit intense, but it's competently taken. It's against a nice background, and I'm going to go 16 on this one, please.
That's by Babs Arnold. Scarce Swallowtail Butterfly, Freitho, Portugal.
A beautiful butterfly indeed. By taking it sideways on like this, it's a bit 3-dimensional and the focus does vary a little bit through the beast. Arguably just a little bit large in the frame, but very competently taken. I like the light coming through, but 16, please.
That's by Malcolm Turner. Samson.
Yeah, Samson is a bay horse, probably in his stable, and you've gone for sort of, you've reduced the light and you've gone for sort of highlights. I love Samson's right eye, which is the one towards the left of the screen. I'm finding the light on the other side of his face maybe a tiny bit harsh, but it's a very competently taken picture of a brown horse in a brown stable with minimal light, and it's certainly the sort of picture that I would try and take. 18, please.
That's by Sally Freeman. Slagachen Bridge.
I like the accent, that was beautiful. I think it's the Isle of Skye. I think those are the Coolins in the background. A lovely old craggy bridge, well photographed from David Bailey's tripod holes or something of the sort. It's competently taken. Colours are a little bit bright maybe, but I will give this one 19, please.
That's by James Billings. The Horror of Knife Crime.
Yeah, for some reason this one's been sent. There it is. This is a horrific picture. Do I enjoy it? No. But it's very graphic. It's very disturbing. You've got the stabbed youth, you've got the screaming vulnerable female, and you've got this blood-soaked hand and knife in the foreground. It's awful. I dislike it. 20, please.
That's by Ian Ryle. Very well done, Ian. Forlorn.
Yeah, this youth that may be a steam fair, a bit like the previous guy, I don't know, looking sad and rather helpless. But it's quite a bright picture, and I wonder if it was a bit darker would enhance that sadness that you want to tell me about in your title. It's a nice portrait of a boy in costume, and the soot on his face and the curly hair works very well. 16, please.
That's by Judy Hodgson. The Top Gun.
Yeah, a very competent picture of a very competent motorcyclist in action. He's on a corner, so you knew exactly where he'd be hugging that near line. It's a bit of a shame that he's fairly dark in his outfit and his bike too, and it's sort of shot against the red and white background wall there, and it might have been nicer if the background wall was a little bit darker to put the emphasis back onto him. Red in the top corner is always not always the best of bets, but I'm going to go 18 on that one, please.
That's by Michael Foster. The Dog Handler.
The Dog Handler shows a gentleman at probably a shoot, and these are the gun dogs waiting. One he trusts, the black one, and the fawn one is in training, I would guess. And he's studiously looking. I like his walking stick there and his third collie-like dog. It's a nice portrait of a guy with his dogs, but they're looking at something that we're not seeing. Maybe we don't want to see birds being shot. I don't know. 15, please, on this one.
That's by Alice Kendrick. King Penguin Courtship.
A nice piece of courtship behaviour among two king penguins, and you've given us information in the background that demonstrates a little bit of the environment in which you find them. We're so used to seeing penguins in snow on all the wildlife films. I've never seen them in life. But here they're in a non-snowy environment, but it's well captured behaviour. 17, please.
That's by Dawn Osborne. The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Oh my goodness. Another picture that you don't have to like, but you can admire. And I did admire the horror of knife crime, honestly. Somebody here has taken a face-on portrait and two side-on portraits and blended it all nicely together. And it's very cleverly done, and you can't really see the joins. Do I like it? It's hard to fault. 19 on this one, please.
That's by Richard Harrison. The Interceptor.
Yeah, I'm struggle a tiny bit with your title. I'm not sure who the interceptor is. Is he the flying guy in the middle? We all know how badly England are playing rugby at present, so does that taint my views of this? The Welsh guy looks like he's about to be hit, but nobody's got the ball, and in American football terms you call it a fumble, I guess. Someone tackling someone in the background, neither of whom have got the ball. It's beautifully captured action, but maybe with the ball flying loose, to me it could be, the moment could be stronger. 16, please.
That's by Julie Mullings. Jim.
Jim is a lovely character, another lovely character, and I think you photographed him nicely. Photography is sometimes about where you put the edges of the picture, and Jim's probably got very expressive hands, but you've chosen to chop them off. I don't mind them being dark, but I'd love to have seen the fingers too. And maybe if I had the chance to edit the picture, I'd have got rid of his advert hanging on his zip. 16, please, for Jim.
That's by John Early. Locket Eve.
Yeah, another sort of a Scottish type image, very slow water movement, but I think it works nicely here. It almost looks like snow or thick ice in the foreground. Again, this picture here is in a PDI competition, but it would make a fabulous monochrome print. 19, please.
That's by Ian Gostelow. Steve Hackett.
Yeah, once of Genesis, now playing solo, and quite a classic picture of this musician in action. And whilst it's about his hair and his guitar and his box, as you've rightly acknowledged, it's really all about those spotlights as well. And it's the spotlights that sort of make the picture. 18, please.
That's by Roger Hance. Ayla, Flowing in Dance.
Yeah, and an interesting picture this, and I've actually seen, dare I say it, one or two a bit like it before. So I can sort of understand how it's done. And I can understand because she's throwing sand or flour or something in the air. She'd have her head down and have her eyes shut. That's sort of understandable. I find the whiff of sand under her tutu a bit unfortunate, but it's a well constructed picture, but it doesn't grab me like some of the others. 16, please.
That's by Peter Baker. Curious Cat.
I think this is lovely pet portraiture, and it's quite nice to see pet portraiture coming into Camera Club competition as well. And the cat is nicely set up, and I'm sure you could sell copies of that to your owner, or I'm sure it's got commercial qualities, a picture like that of this this moggy. It's cute, it's commercial, I think, but 16, please.
That's by Katrina Wilson. The Longest Pier in the World.
Yeah, now my guess is this might be Southend Pier, but Southend Pier is the longest pier in Europe, not in the world. That's in Mexico, and I don't think this is Mexico, but you've certainly put the pier into a long picture, and I think that works well. It's a bit difficult to see where sea and sky mix and meet, and that doesn't matter. I quite enjoy the picture, though it's difficult to make a pier look sexy and exciting. I'm going to go 17, please.
That's by Joe Sowden. Dawn Light, Trevan.
This is a landscape photograph, and isn't it refreshing to see a landscape photograph that is in portrait format? And it works so beautifully with this particular image, with the cascading water in the foreground, leading in beautifully down towards the lake, and then Tryfan, which I think is in Snowdonia, in the background. And I think everything is working very well here. And of the landscapes, this is one of my favourites. 20, please.
That's by Pete Atkinson. Very well done, Pete.
Mm-hmm.
The Homburg Hat.
Yeah. Again, I can feel sorry for the photographer here, because your image is in PDI, and for me, this gorgeous image ought to be a monochrome print and maybe about 1.5 stops less exposed to really bring out the highlights in that beautiful body and flesh. Beautifully posed, good work. If I were buying enough for you, I'd want it as a print, please. 20.
That's by Jeremy Rodwell. Well done, Jeremy. Golden Cross.
In contrast, this lady has got lovely Afro-Caribbean skin tones, and that is gorgeous. I do wonder, though, about your choice of ornament and your choice of makeup and the fingernails, because to me that contrasts too starkly with her ebony skin colours. And whilst I enjoy the darkness of the picture, I don't really enjoy the sort of the ornamentation that's gone on. You had some say over how she presented herself, I am sure. That's the bit that's niggling me a little bit. 15, please.
That's by Gary Hagg. Candlelight.
Candlelight, I believe, is a Greek Orthodox type priest. I believe he is lighting candles in a church. It's not the only light in the picture, because we can see this side of the little pots that are about to hold the candle. but it's lovely that we can take photographs by candlelight and get away with it. I'm not sure what the magazine in the background there is. I hope it's not a copy of Playboy, but there's something about the title. Forget that. Sorry, I'm being rude. 18 for this picture, please.
That's by Malcolm Imhoff. The Choir, Bristol Cathedral.
Yeah, the choir being a place rather than the people. It's a very competently architectural picture with upright verticals of this church interior. And it is stark and it's imposing and there's sort of an ornateness about it. What I'm itching to do is to take your picture and put it on brightness and contrast and swing the sliders around a little bit and see if you can punch a bit more atmosphere into it by taking the foreground exposure down a little bit, which would then saturate the colours more. I'm going to go 16 on that one, please.
That's by Caroline Bailey. Harmony in White.
I do find this a very attractive still life image. Another friend of mine got his fellowship out of white on white pictures, and this reminds me an awful lot of that panel. I get worried looking at the picture that egg's going to fall off, but you've used light beautifully. You haven't resorted like some do to heavy vignetting. It is white on white and it works, and this is a clear 20. Thank you.
That's by Tom Bluczynski. Well done, Tom. Male Stone Chat.
A good enough image of a stone chat against a harmoniously coloured out of focus background sitting on a rush. Having said earlier, I like to see a bit more space in the picture. Maybe I'd like to have seen the picture frame brought down a little bit on this one for my natural history eye. I'm going to go 16 on the stone chat.
That's by John Harvey. The Sentinels.
Yeah, I don't know where this is, but it's an imposing building, but the buildings is someone else's artwork, it's not yours. What's the photographer added to it? You've taken it at an exposure when by a 10 or 15 or 30-second exposure, I don't know what, but you've got the river moving through, there's no noise, there's no traffic on the river, and then the wind has blown the sky sufficiently that you get this radiating effect in the sky that makes the Sentinels even more imposing. Of the architectural type pictures, this is a 20.
That's by Tom Peck. Congratulations, Tom. Marbled White on Yellow Rattle.
Another classic picture of an insect, the marbled white, and thank you for diagnosing the plant for me. I'd have struggled. You've taken it sort of side on, the insect is fairly flat, which makes focusing a little bit easier. Technically competent, good wildlife photography, 18, please.
That's by Peter Moulton. Blooms and Berries.
An interesting picture, this. Again, a sort of a tabletop setup with a appropriate backdrop, some fairly heavy darkening. The three blooms, the berries there, the red, yellow. The vase is doing strange things for me. I'm sort of looking into the top of it and it's disappearing at the bottom, but I don't quite understand what's happening with the vase. I think the one fallen petal is important. It's competent. It's not really got the excitement that some of the other images has. 16, please.
That's by Jill Stein. Making a splash.
Yeah, is it about the splash or is it about the osprey who's landed? Is it about the timing? Certainly you've got the bird coming out of the water, you've got the focus on the eye. Another frame, a tenth of a second later, might have shown that he's caught a salmon out of this Scottish fishing lake or whatever. The shape of the picture though is telling me to look at the splash. I'm going to go 15 on this one, please.
That's by Gary Dean. Coolin Hills.
The Coolins, again, I think I'm on Sky. A fine bit of landscape photography. I nearly said wish I was there, but it looks pretty cold and pretty hostile. Quite a lot of foreground. I like the splash on the rock. The hills in the background, you've got a snowy or a shaft of light running across them. And again, a bit like the church choir, I wonder whether a little bit more could be made of the picture with that sort of, that shaft of light or that snowy ridge there. Maybe a bit too much foreground for my liking. But 18, please, on the Coolins.
That's by Nick Akers. Dawn at the Oyster Beds.
Yeah, I've no idea where in the world this is. Please don't tell me it's Norwich, but it looks sort of oriental to me. Again, I'm getting the impression that it's a long exposure. I'm getting the impression that that's moving water in the foreground there. But the effect that you've achieved by that is to make it look like a polished floor, and the oyster beds start to look like table tennis tables to me, and I'm sort of disturbed by it's creating images in my mind that shouldn't be there. I'm going to go 16 on that one, please.
That's by Jane Greatrex. Blue Morph Arctic Fox.
Yeah, what does a blue morph do? I believe it's an Arctic fox that doesn't go white in the winter, and this is very definitely in the winter. Maybe Norway, maybe Iceland, I don't know where we are. But it's clearly snowing, it's a very atmospheric picture, fabulous focus on the fox, a very rare fox because 99% of them do go white in the winter. Very happy to give this one 20, please.
That's by Simon Jenkins. Congratulations, Simon. Black Church Rock.
Yes, wonderful sculptural, geological structure, I believe in sort of Devon areas. What's the photographer put in? He's got the character in there, maybe it's himself, maybe he's on self-timer, I don't know. After that, he's put work into, he or she has put work into the foreground. That's working quite well indeed. I think it'll make a lovely print. 17, please.
That's by Sophia Spurgeon.
Well done.
Man's Best Friend.
Yeah, that is lovely. It's come up black on my screen against black, and the black lab, if that's what the dog is, looks gorgeous. The lighting is beautiful on it, and I'd like to have taken that. I don't think it's quite as good as some, but let's go 19, please.
That's by Mark Glenister. Weddell Seal.
Yeah, the Weddell seal. Would you believe John Weddell, the great grandson, is a member of a local camera club? I think this is in the Antarctic area. It's a gorgeous picture of the seal's face. He's behind a snowy bank, and I do wonder if that snowy bank wasn't there, whether he's quite all in the picture. Maybe I want a little bit more foreground to give you a little more to accommodate. But lovely detail on the seal, lovely attention in the video. 18, please.
That's by Michael Bamford. Shropshire Morning.
Shropshire Morning, which is taken from a peak in Shropshire, I'm obviously assuming. I like the frostiness down one side of the hill, the brightness of the light the other side. The colour, is it believable? I'm just a little bit dubious there, and the focus on the foreground rocks isn't quite as strong as maybe it could be, but it's lovely. Bit of landscape. 17, please.
That's by Andrew Fox. Smoking Elephant.
Yeah, again, my screen is stagnated, but the smoking elephant reminds me of my Swarovski glass elephant that I've got, and somehow you've achieved this sort of smoking effect around it. So it's a well-designed, a competent piece of structural photography. It's about whether you like it or whether you don't like it so much, I suppose, whether it's got that appeal that's going to get it higher. I'm going to go 16 on this one, please.
That's by Lee Adele. Collision of Kites.
Yeah, this picture, I think you've sort of acknowledged it in the title, the collision of. You've got two kites in flight, and the nearest one is beautifully sharp, and you have got both faces in the picture, but they do overlap in the picture. You're probably at one of these red kite feeding stations, and it's great dramatic action, but it's a bit of a shame about that overlap. I don't think they've actually collided. I think they've sort of collided in your image angle. I'm going to go 15 on this one, please.
That's by Robert Holgate. Ryan Westley.
Yeah, I'm sorry, my images have gone behind again. Ryan Westley, I believe, is canoeing in an international kite competition. There we are, thank you. And I like the drama, I like the action in the picture, I like the darkness of the picture. Even water running down off his nose and dripping down. It's dramatic sporting photography, and I think this is sort of kayaking down a set course. 19 for Ryan Westley.
That's by Pete Atkinson. Turbocharged.
And in contrast, another water splash picture, and it's maybe unfortunate the two come up together. A guy on a jet ski, I think it's a guy, but in contrast to the one before, it's rather bright. He's very close. Bit like the Weddell seal, if the water wasn't there, would all of it be in the picture? I think in a way it's a bit chopped off. I'd like to have seen it a bit further back. I'd like to have enjoyed more of the splash. I'm going to go 15 on that one, please.
That's by Tony Williams. Southwold, Suffolk.
Yeah, and in contrast, a very serene mill pond, we know what you've done with the water, effect of a piece of sea defences and a rocky foreshore. Maybe that's one of these artificial rocky foreshores that have come in. Works well in monochrome. 17, please.
That was by David Turner. Sunrise in Harris.
I do find this a very pleasing, genteel image of the Scottish Highlands at sunrise. Hard to see in the foreground whether we're looking at sand or water or whatever. Lovely pastel flow of colours through the picture, and I'm quite happy with the horizon being that's high. Happy to give this one a 20, please.
That one is by Shirley Hollis. Very well done, Shirley. Mating king penguins.
Yes, we saw the king penguins in courtship earlier, and here now we're getting on to the intimate stuff. And again, I've never actually witnessed anything like this, so it's informative to the less well-travelled eye. I enjoy this, possibly a little bit large in the frame. The other one gave a bit more detail, but I'm going to go 19 on this one, please.
That's by Robin Claydon. March of the Cranes.
Yeah, in photography, especially in Brighton, we talk about either taking pictures or making pictures, and this is a made picture. It's not a straight image. It's layered on. It's dark, it's sinister, it's intimidating, and it works very well for me, and this is a 20, please.
That's by Tom Pluchinski. Well done, Tom.
Mm-hmm.
Snettisham at Dawn.
Yeah, when I first saw this, it reminded me of the starlings flocking congregations at Brighton. So, but if it's dawn, then at Snettisham, then these are probably knot or sandlins or dunlin, coming in to feed on the mud flats with the receding tide. And I like the foreground. I like the wet mud, and you've got the flow of the birds in flight strongly. 18, please.
That's by Bruce Liggett. The Lady Likes a Cigar.
Yeah, a sort of a Far Eastern woman, I'm guessing. Maybe it's Cuba with a rolled up cigar. I don't know. You've really darkened the background down, so it's all about the lady. But in so doing, you've sort of deprived us a bit of context. She's a nice character. I like her coat, etc. A bit of phantom shading going on behind her left ear. 15, please.
That's by Alan Martin. Scary Sue.
Yeah, it is a scary picture. Not on the par with Knife Crime we saw earlier, but it's a scary picture. And she's dramatically made up, and the black and white scarf adds to it, and her pale hair. For me, it becomes very much a picture of black and white and not much in the way of shades of grey in between. I wonder about her expression. I wonder if, to be more scary, she ought to be scowling at us instead of smiling at us. 15, please.
That's by Nigel Gardner. Eyes Ahead Through the Bend.
The picture, when there it is, shows a motorcyclist, and you have panned beautifully with him. We've got a much darker background here, so I can't criticize it like the one we did earlier. I think the panning, he's clearly in fast action, but you've captured that motion very competently, and it's close to faultless in my humble opinion. For sports photography, 20 please.
That's by Colin Bradshaw. Very well done, Colin. Dusky Dolphin.
The dolphin is leaping from the water. There it is. And whether it was beside you on a boat, although I can't see any wake of your boat in the picture. The light wasn't too favourable to you. The shape of the picture's fine. Probably Southern Hemisphere. If I've got a qualm with this picture, it might be the blackness of the reflection. And I've been critical in this commentary a little bit on highlights and shadows, but I do wonder whether a little bit of highlights and shadows there would have put a bit more detail into the dolphin. Excuse me, my voice is whether it would have put a little bit of sort of zebra stripe back into the dolphin, whereas the reflection is, to me, a bit too strikingly dark. I'm going to go 15 there, please.
That's by Steve Laws. Airborne.
Another sporting action, water sports, whether he's I don't know what the sport is. There's so many variations on this these days. He's certainly enjoying himself. The background suggests it's on a lake somewhere. I can imagine a bird photographer getting very upset by him. I think I want a bit more context. He's certainly enjoying himself. 15, please.
That's by David Blake. Room with a view.
Again, I talked earlier about making pictures, and this picture has certainly been made. I'm very sorry about your dog who changes colour halfway through it. It's a room with a view and a view and a view and a view, and it goes on. Very cleverly constructed. I couldn't do it. You've got the sky dropping in all over the place. If I've got a whinge about it, it might be the sort of the dark line over the side water into the aquaria, and then the light line over the picture frame going beyond. That's the bit that to me looks a little bit artificial. 18, please.
That's by Douglas Thompson. Shadows on Downland.
Yeah, this is taking pictures in contrast, and this is a gorgeous. I'd love to know where this is. And you've gone there at a great time of day. Again, you could lighten it or you could darken it. It works well. You've got the tractor fertilizing there beautifully. 20, please.
That's by Hugh Milsom. Congratulations, Hugh.
Oh my goodness.
Japanese anemone.
Yeah, you'll by now know that Bob Webzell doesn't like pictures of flowers, so here a very pastel picture. I like the minimal focus of the center of the flower. Again, I'm enjoying the colors, and again, this is a 20.
That's by Sophia Spurgeon. Well done, Sophia. Urban Walker.
And in a total contrast, we get this rather sinister kick the tripod type of image, whereby you've got someone walking down a back alley. I get the impression it might be female, so they might be vulnerable. I don't know. I like the sort of blue on one side with a solid building. I like the gold on the other side with the more, it's reminding me a bit of Venice, but I don't think it is Venice. I think it's very well crafted and very well put together, and that's another 20.
That's by Roger Bradshaw. Congratulations, Roger. Harvest mouse nest.
This is another gorgeous image of harvest mice who have nested in a thistle. The nest they've made it out of looked a bit like the hay I feed my horse, but that's another story. So I'm just hoping it is totally in the wild. I'd love to think it is, but you've got the two mice on top, the adults, one of them looking a little bit tatty from working hard, feeding youngsters, and the two inside. A gorgeous image, wished I'd have taken it. 20.
That's by Martin Hancock. Congratulations, Martin. A different kind of rainbow.
Yeah, again, very different photography, sort of bubbles in water or glass, coloured lights shone onto it, maybe to create this picture. Very pleasing, one could see it as a poster, I'm sure commercially viable. I'm going to go 17 on that one, please.
That's by Linda Bezin. Hebridean dunes.
The picture of the sand dunes is pleasing. The light on the day wasn't great. You've got down low and put this grass very strongly into the front of the picture that to me does block the way through to the landscape beyond, so much so that I then end up sort of enjoying the wet sand over here on the right rather than the view beyond. Having said I like low views, I wonder if you could have got just a foot or so higher and pushed it through a little bit more. I do like the inclusion of the two figures down there on the edge. That's good. 16, please.
That's by Richard Byrne. Promenading.
I've not seen this picture before, but I've seen a picture of this architecture before, and it's a gorgeous bit of someone else's sea wall, and the inclusion of the two figures is just perfect there. Going out to sea, it's sort of getting a bit lost into the mist. And again, if I took this picture to Brighton Camera Club, they'd make it into a print and they'd up and down at maybe 2 stops and really make those teeth sort of shout at you. But it's fine as it is. 19, please.
That's by Adele Gibson. Winter feeding red squirrel.
Yes, number 120. We have this squirrel borrowed from the heathers earlier. No, it's lovely to see red squirrels. And again, it's eating a hazelnut that it's taken out of the shell. Again, whether it was possibly baited into that spot by that or not, it is a matter of that's your knowledge, it's not for me. I like it. Maybe it's not quite showing the background, the environment of the other one. You vignetted it in, I'm going to go 18 on that one, please.
That's by Peter Gray, and that is our final image. So I can reveal the results. Our winners this year are Chelmsford Camera Club with a whopping 113 points. Very well done to Chelmsford. Pico and Biggleswade share second place, and Ipswich and Deepings share third place. So very, very good entries from all of those clubs, well, from everyone really, and lovely to see such a variety of images. I will now share the full panel by Chelmsford, just so that you can see all of those winning images together. And we do have some PAGB awards to give out as well. So Bob, if you would like to do the honours. We have 3 ribbons and 3 medals.
Thank you, Alice, and thank you very much for entering, and thank you for the privilege of commenting on your work. I'm sorry if you don't agree with everything, but in my mind, the best of bubble to the top. The first ribbon that I wish to award to an image that scored 20, sunrise over to Harris Island.
That's Sunrise in Harris by Shirley Hollis of Shillington and District.
My second ribbon, I can't read my own writing, is Harmony in White.
That's by Tom Pluczynski of Chelmsford.
Well done. And my third ribbon goes to The Nest of Harvest Mice.
And that's by Martin Hancock of Ipswich and District.
Well done.
Moving on to the medals.
Thank you. We have 3 PAGB medals, I understand, and in my third place in bronze, it is the image of the gymnast over the beam, that one there. Thank you.
Gymnast focused on beam, that's by Andy Guttridge of Pico.
Well done. In second place, a travel image, the Manyar Lake Fisherman, I think is gorgeous.
Inlay Lake Fisherman by Paul Turner of Hertford.
Well done indeed. And bubbling to the top out of 119 others, for me the best is the Blue Morph Arctic Fox.
That's by Simon Jenkins of Ware and District. Very, very well done to everyone who has been awarded a PAGB award.
Thank you.
Okay, so before I sort of say my closing thank yous, just first of all apologise for the internet lag that Bob had tonight. And just to reassure you that Bob has actually seen all of these images ahead of this evening, and all the judges being done ahead of time. So all the scores are based on Bob seeing the actual images prior to tonight. So I'd like to express my thanks to all the camera clubs who've entered tonight, and congratulations to this year's winners.
Yeah.
Normally at this time we'll be presenting the awards, but this year we will be posting out your medals and ribbons to the individual clubs and winners. A special thank you to Bob for judging this evening for what must have been a very difficult task to rank so many high quality images. So thank you very much, Bob, and we appreciate your comments and feedback tonight.
Thank you, Steve.
I'd also like to express my thanks to the St Ives team. It's taken a lot of people to put this evening together, especially to Alice Kendrick, who's run Interprint for a third time, to Brian Sibley, Karen Laws, Chris Coakley, Tim Norman, Debbie Hall, Nikki Cope, Louisa Christie and Dave Norman in particular. So thank you all very much. And finally, I'd like to thank our sponsors for their continued support. I know some business has been hit quite hard this year, and it's very reassuring to see our sponsors still seeing the value in sponsoring a photographic club like ours. And next year is an important milestone for St Ives. It's our 50th anniversary year and our 40th Interprint. So I do hope you can join us for Interprint next year, which hopefully will be our more traditional print competition at the St Ives Free Church. So thank you very much and good night to everybody.